The death toll in Gaza has exceeded 10,000, including more than 4,100 children, according to Gaza's health ministry.
Poland's president has tapped Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki to form the next government. Refugee centres in the Netherlands say they are running out of space as numbers of Ukrainian refugees have doubled since August.
France begins debating a hugely controversial immigration bill that some argue is a threat to the rights of asylum seekers and other migrants. More than 10,000 people have been killed in just under a month in Gaza, including at least 4,100 children. A grim milestone that makes Israel's war on Hamas the deadliest in the region since 1948. This as Israeli forces are expected to enter Gaza City, after the country divided the northern and southern parts of the Palestinian enclave. The growing death toll left the Palestinian Prime Minister in tears during an opening session of a cabinet meeting in Ramallah.
أطفال يكتبون أسماءهم على أجسادهم لكي يتم التعرف على جثامينهم. والدة الأطفال الثلاثة الذين دفنوا تحت الركام تقول لأطفالها: خلوني أشوفكم ولو.
To get aid into Gaza, Jordan and Israel coordinated an airdrop of medical supplies to a field hospital in the northern part of the enclave. It was the first airdrop in the war and raised the possibility of bypassing the Rafah crossing. Some 40% of Gaza's population has fled their homes since the war began. And according to the UN, many of them are surviving on 2 pieces of bread a day. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are fleeing south, ahead of an expected Israeli advancement into Gaza's dense urban neighborhoods.
Israeli ground forces advanced along the northwestern Gaza coast amid reports of clashes with Hamas in this area. The Al-Qassam Brigades, the militant wing of Hamas, released footage of its militants operating in and around the Al-Shati refugee camp. It is here in this area. They have also published footage of its militants maneuvering through tunnel systems in Beit Hanun and attacking the advancing IDF forces here in northeastern Gaza Strip, including west of Erra's military checkpoint, possibly as a part of an effort to harass and disrupt Israeli ground lines of communication here. The Institute for the Study of War says Hamas will likely continue to attack this and other IDF crossing points and the roads leading from them.
Ukraine will find out on Wednesday if it's close to meeting a major milestone in becoming a member of the EU. The European Commission will report on Ukraine's progress in 7 key areas. In a surprise visit to Kyiv, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said Ukraine had completed 90% of the conditions in order to formally start accession talks. Of the more difficult outstanding categories is the process of so-called de-oligarchization, where Kyiv is required to take robust measures to remove the influence of powerful oligarchs from the political system.
We know that before the war, Ukraine was really subject to these predatory forces. Some of the oligarchs connected directly to the Kremlin, and many of them Ukrainian, and who essentially sought political proxies so that they could pursue their business interests in those ways. Now, here I think there's a lot of disentangling that has to be done, but I think this has begun and Ukraine has made genuine progress. I was really struck, for example, many months ago when the head of the Supreme Court in Ukraine was arrested and found with millions of euros. To me, that was an indication of the real seriousness of this Ukrainian government in pursuing people.
Another issue is minority rights. Hungary says it's concerned about the protection for Hungarian language speakers living in Ukraine. But advisors to President Zelensky say they've nothing to fear. However, there may be a problem for Russian speakers in the future.
in fact, there has been just a law passed which protects minority language, and the President Zelensky signed it. But of course, there's discussions about, language becoming a propaganda tool. People demand certain type of culture being taught in schools. And so that's going to be a polarizing issue for quite some time.
If the EU report says Kyiv has fulfilled its demands, then the 27 EU member states have to unanimously agree on whether Ukraine can move to the next level at an EU summit in December. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
Poland's president has tapped Mateusz Morawiecki, the current prime minister of the Law and Justice Party, to try and form the country's next government. His decision is expected to delay the establishment of a functioning government because lawmakers aren't likely to give Morawiecki the necessary approval for his cabinet. President Andrzej Duda made the announcement on Monday following a national election in which the right-wing Law and Justice lost its parliamentary majority to 3 allied opposition parties, but emerged as the single biggest vote-getter. An ally of the current government, Duda had said the 2 candidates for Prime Minister were Mateusz Morawiecki and main opposition leader Donald Tusk, a former Polish Prime Minister and top European Union official. If Tusk were to be appointed, it could signal a change in Poland's relationship with Brussels after 8 years of fighting over issues ranging from migration to LGBTQ+ rights. Since the beginning of the Ukraine war, over 100,000 Ukrainians have fled to the Netherlands seeking refuge. The majority registering at this centre have come directly from Ukraine, but around 30% have arrived from other European countries, including Poland.
В Нідерланди я приїхав вчора, мені дуже сподобалося описання моїх друзів, які тут були. Вони кажуть, що країна досить непогана для життя. Приїхав з Польщі, до цього там знаходився більше року, але там мені не дуже сподобалося.
Some centres are finding it difficult to cope with the intake of Ukrainian refugees and are running out of space as numbers have doubled since August. Over 80,000 are still living in municipal shelters.
We zagen in het begin vooral heel veel vrouwen, dan vrouwen met kinderen. De afgelopen periode zagen we een tijdje ook wat meer mannen, vooral voor hereniging komen. Ons hart gaat natuurlijk wel uit naar de meest kwetsbaren. En we maken ons wel zorgen of er straks ook voor die kwetsbaren nog plek is. Omdat die instroom zo hard gaat op dit moment, dat we het landelijk echt niet meer aankunnen.
Ukrainian refugees are under the Temporary Protection Directive, which grants them automatic rights to work and benefit from social housing and medical care.
Dozens of protesters rallied outside the Senate in Paris as lawmakers began debating a hugely controversial immigration bill. The new legislation aims to toughen the country's immigration laws and accelerate the process for deporting foreigners. But advocacy groups argue it is a threat to the rights of asylum seekers and other migrants.
Ce projet de loi prévoit de priver les gens de l'aide médicale de l'État. C'est toute une population qui est en danger. Donc notre santé, nous les immigrés, notre santé, c'est la santé aussi des Français et des Françaises.
The bill also aims to give legal status to undocumented individuals working in sectors that need workers.
La belle hypocrisie de ce gouvernement. Vous avez d'un côté le ministre de l'Intérieur qui dit on va expulser les sans-papiers. Vous avez de l'autre côté l'administration de Bercy qui dit on est bien content de prendre les impôts, la TVA, la CSG et les cotisations sociales de ces travailleurs sans-papiers qui, s'ils sont sans titre de séjour, ont quand même des contrats de travail et des fiches de paie.
The government believes public opinion is on its side, as a recent survey suggests that 87% of people are in favor of changing immigration rules in the country. Workers from some 400 companies across Austria's metal industry took part in a 3-hour strike on Monday. The action will be repeated daily until Wednesday. They are demanding a wage increase of around 11% to match inflation.
Wir müssen die letzten 12 Monate aus unserer eigenen Tasche ganze teuer bezahlen. Und jetzt wollen wir halt, dass wir ein bisschen Unterstützung dazu bekommen, aber es ist halt, passiert leider Gottes gar nichts. Jetzt werden wir mal zeigen, was wir drauf haben, dass wir zusammenhalten können. Und ja, es muss sich einfach etwas bewegen. Anders geht es nicht.
Before the action, employers proposed an increase of 2.5% or a maximum of €100. But unions say it's not enough, and they have since rolled out accepting wage and salary increases of less than 9.6%. After the strike, union representatives and employers are set to return to the negotiating table.
Donald Trump is back in court this Monday. The former US president stands accused of inflating the value of his assets by billions of dollars in order to obtain bank loans and insurance on more favorable terms. It's a case that threatens to bring down his property empire. Since he first appeared in court in October, Trump has been fined twice, totaling nearly 14,000 euros for contempt of court. Trump and his sons will not be imprisoned, but face up to $250 million in penalties and potential removal from the management of the family company. Nepal was once again hit by an earthquake on Monday. There were reports of injuries but no deaths so far. The latest tremor comes just 3 days after an earthquake left over 150 people dead and more than 300 people wounded. The epicenter of the latest quake was in the same area as the one on Friday, in the Jharkhand region, which is in the west of the country. Friday's 6.4 magnitude quake was the deadliest to hit the country since 2015. Meanwhile, rescuers continue to search the rubble in the hope of finding more survivors.
Stargazers across Central Europe were treated to a rare sighting of the Northern Lights on Sunday. The stunning display is known as the Aurora Borealis, and it was observed in Ireland, England, Scotland, Denmark and Norway, and as far east as Ukraine, and even in Bulgaria for the first time.